shooting occurs, the first question almost everyone asks is simple: why? Why should someone commit an act of such extraordinary violence against strangers, classmates, co-workers, or members of their own community? It is one of the most difficult questions in sociology, psychology, and criminology because there is no single answer. A human's behavior is rarely the product of one event or one circumstance or one personal characteristic. Instead, it develops through a complex interaction of biological, psychological, social and cultural, and environmental influences. Understanding these influences is not about excusing the violence or diminishing the personal responsibility. Those who commit these crimes remain fully accountable for their actions. Rather, the purpose of sociology is to understand the broader social conditions that may contribute to these rare but devastating events so that the communities can better recognize the risks, strengthen protective factors, and improve prevention. Sociology differs from psychology in an important way. Psychology primarily examines the individual, how a person's thoughts, emotions, personality, trauma, and mental process influence their behavior. Sociology, on the other hand, asks a broader question: how does a society shape human behavior? It examines how families and schools, peer groups, neighborhoods, economic systems, cultural expectations, institutions, media, and technology all influence the choices people make throughout their lives. Rather than focusing only on the individual, sociology studies the relationship between the individual and the social world in which they live. One of the most influential ideas in sociology is that human beings are fundamentally social creatures. From birth, our identities develop through the relationships with parents, siblings, teachers, classmates, and coworkers, and communities. We learn social norms and values and expectations through interaction with others. And a sense of belonging is not simply desirable, it is one of the basic psychological and social needs that contributes to healthy development. There's research consistently shows that strong social connections will improve emotional well-being, increase the resilience during difficult times, and reduce the likelihood of many harmful behaviors. Conversely, however, chronic social isolation can increase the stress and loneliness and feelings of alienation. It is important to emphasize that the social isolation alone does not cause the violence. There are millions of people experience loneliness without ever becoming violent. However, sociologists recognize that the persistent isolation may become one contributing factor among many when combined with other significant stresses. Another important sociological concept is strain theory, where first you developed by sociologist Robert K. Merton. Strain theory suggests that the tensions can arise when the individuals believe they are unable to achieve culturally valued goals, such as success, respect, belonging, or status through socially accepted means. Most of the people respond to disappointment by adapting or seeking support, changing their goals, or persevering through adversity. There's a very small number that may instead develop a deep resentment, hopelessness, or hostility toward others. The sociology does not argue that strain causes the violence. Rather, it identifies the strain as one possible social pressure that can interact with many others, personal and environmental factors as well. The overwhelming majority of the people experiencing these hardships never engage in their violence, while demonstrating that the adversity alone is never a sufficient explanation. Sociologists also study the role of social identity. Every individual seeks a sense of purpose and belonging with groups. These groups may include the families, religious communities, sports teams, workplaces, clubs, online communities, or social movements. Rather, the healthy communities will provide support and accountability and the opportunities for positive relationships. Some individuals become disconnected from traditional sources of belonging and instead seek the identity within communities that reinforce grievance, hostility, or extremist worldviews. The rise of the digital communications has significantly changed this process as well. The online platforms allow individuals to connect across the world while creating opportunities for education, friendship, and collaboration. Yet they can also expose the vulnerable individuals to communities that normalize the hatred and glorify violence or encourage increasingly distorted beliefs. Researchers studying radicalization have observed the online echo chambers that can reinforce existing grievances by limiting exposure to the opposing viewpoints and reportedly validating the feelings and the anger of victimization. Now, the modern media environment has also become an important subject of sociological research. The new organizations play a vital role in the informing the public, but the researchers have examined whether the extensive coverage of perpetrators they may unintentionally contribute to what is sometimes called the contagion effect. Studies have suggested that the repeated, highly publicized reporting on previous attacks may influence a very small number of vulnerable individuals who seek recognition, notoriety, or infamy. Now, this does not mean media coverage causes the violence, nor does it imply that journalists should ignore important events. Rather, many experts recommend focusing greater attention on the victims and survivors, community resilience, and evidence-based prevention, while limiting the unnecessary emphasis on the perpetrators, identities, and personal narratives. Culture also influences the behavior in complex ways. Sociologists examine how societies define concepts such as success, masculinity, conflict, status, and achievement. The cultural expectations shape how individuals interpret the failure, rejection, humiliation, and interpersonal conflict. In many societies, the individuals are encouraged to solve problems peacefully and seek help with needed and rely on supportive relationships. However, the cultural messages that equate personal worth with dominance, power, or retaliation may influence how some vulnerable individuals interpret the personal setbacks. These cultural influences never determine the behavior by themselves, but they contribute to the broader social environment in which identities are formed. The institutions represent another critical area of sociological study. Families, schools, healthcare systems, workplaces, religious organizations, community groups, and the criminal justice system, they all influence development. These institutions can provide support, mentorship, intervention, and opportunities for the healthy social integration. They can also identify concerning behavioral changes and connect individuals with appropriate assistance before the crisis ever escalates. The research into targeted violence consistently emphasizes the importance of early intervention, multidisciplinary threat assessment, and communications among the institutions when credible concerns arise. But importantly, this research also cautions against stereotyping or stigmatizing people based on isolated characteristics. No single behavior reliably predicts the violence, and most individuals who do experience mental health challenges or social difficulties never become violent. One of the most valuable contributions sociology makes to this discussion is its rejection of a simple explanation. After every tragedy, there is often a public search for one defining cause of mental illness, violent media, social media, family structure, ideology, economic hardship, or access to weapons. Sociology demonstrates that these events rarely result from a single factor, but instead they emerge from the interactions of multiple influences unfolding over time. The personal vulnerabilities may intersect with chronic isolation, unresolved grievances, social reinforcement, cultural narratives, life stressors, and environmental opportunities. Each case differs, making simplistic explanations inadequate for understanding such complex human behavior. And perhaps the most important lesson sociology offers is that prevention requires a comprehensive approach. Whether it be strong families, supportive schools, accessible mental health care, effective community organizations, responsible media practices, and evidence based violence prevention programs, thoughtful public policy, and continued interdisciplinary research will all contribute to reducing the risk. No single intervention can eliminate the mass violence entirely because no single factor causes it. The prevention depends upon strengthening protective factors across society while identifying and addressing the very risks through lawful, ethical, and evidence-based practices. And ultimately, sociology reminds us that the tragedies cannot be understood solely by examining one individual or every act of mass violence that occurs within a broader social context, and that includes the relationships, institutions, culture, and community. Understanding that context does not excuse criminal behavior or diminish the personal accountability. Instead, it equips society with the knowledge needed to recognize the patterns, strengthen their resilience, and improve prevention strategies, and better protect the communities. The goal of sociological inquiry is not merely to explain the past, it is to apply what we learn in ways that will reduce the suffering and strengthen social bonds and help build safer, healthier communities for future generations. As always, I want to thank you for being here and watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching the Unfiltered Political Lens podcast, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. Peace. Thank you.